This is the CHGO Cubs Podcast. My name is Corey. I am joined, as always, by Brendan. And, of course, that means it is your Sunday edition of the CHGO Cubs Podcast. We are coming to you live on September 3rd, the final month here of the calendar, Brendan. A very interesting series in Cincinnati. I see our comments here live on YouTube. Thank you for joining us live. If you are here, hop in the comments. Let us know what you're thinking, what you want us to talk about, things like that. Very interesting. The Cubs win the opener in the doubleheader on Friday. They drop two straight one-run blown saves on Friday night and Saturday night, but then come back on Sunday. Take the lead, Taillon blows the lead, take the lead, Taillon blows the lead, tie the game, and an offensive explosion, Brendan, in that top of the eighth inning that felt like, honestly, one of the most needed things we've seen in years from this Cubs team.
You needed it. I needed it. Everyone in this chat needed it. Exactly the way to go into a crucial homestand with Stanford coming up, AZ coming up, and some of those offensive slumps, which I'm sure we'll get into. Good to see them at least show signs that they can get out of it. Looking at Dansby, looking at Candelario in those late innings. Overall, the vibe changed quite dramatically in a span of like 20 minutes. So thank God.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a ton to talk about, right? Usually at the beginning of these podcasts, like to kind of set the table for what we're going to get into. Obviously, general thoughts, the Cubs are in a playoff race. So as annoying as those two losses were, kind of have to immediately flip the script and get back to winning
playoff
games,
race,
which they did 15-7 on Sunday to split the series in Cincinnati. But we will talk about it all. We will talk about Javier Assad, or as the venerable Luke Stuckmeyer says, the ass man, continuing to look like the best, you call it trade deadline acquisition, right, for the Chicago Cubs, because where this team would be without Javier Assad and the work that he has done, who knows,
I'd be dead
right?
too.
We'll talk about Jordan Wicks, another really strong outing for the Cubs rookie. We will talk about Alexander Canario, or the lack of Alexander Canario all weekend.
Is he on the team, Corey? Is Canario on the team?
I don't know. Apparently.
I haven't even seen him in the dugout. So.
I know people in the chat want to talk about that. We will talk about that. We'll talk about the bullpen. Obviously, a frustrating weekend for ALLCITY and Mark Leiter Jr., so we will get into that. We'll talk a little bit of Jameson Taillon, but it's nothing you haven't heard Brendan break down before, right? He doesn't know where his fastball's going. There you go. Like, that's the recipe. So
well, we actually have a little bit more detail with that. It's even worse than it used to be.
I'm sure people can't wait to hear
more
about
I can't wait.
We'll talk about all that stuff. Big weekend for Ian Happ. Another big weekend for Cody Bellinger. Really nice clutch base hit for Nick Madrigal today, to sort of start the scoring in that eighth inning. Got kind of lost in the shuffle because they put up so many runs, but really big from Nick Madrigal. Jameson Candelario maybe breaking out a little bit, couple home runs in this series, so that was really good to see. So again, plenty to talk about. We will get to all of it. The first thing, Brendan, weird post-game show, right? I am thrilled that we are doing a Sunday show that was started by Taillon that they won, right? Very nice for us. But a weird weekend, right? Because in general, and Pat Hughes was saying this on the radio toward the end of the game today, you feel good about taking two of four on the road against a team that is fighting for their life, right, in the Cincinnati Reds in this wild card race, right? You generally feel okay with that. Given how you lost those two games, though, I think a lot of people are going to have somewhat of a sour taste in their mouth and feeling like they should have at least won 3 of 4, if not swept this series. But then at the same time, you look at things and go, you're in a playoff race. You're trying to stay in the division race. You are holding on to that second wild card spot by a couple games. All this stretch for the next, 2 weeks is the teams you're competing with in the wild card spot. You had to wake up on Sunday and find a way to win a ball game. So as frustrating as Friday night and Saturday were, they did just that, and they did it in relatively convincing fashion. So get back home to Wrigley Field. Like, we are going to talk about those losses and some of the stuff in them. You can't just gloss over it. But when you are in this type of race, you have to be able to move on quickly and find a way to win that day's ball game.
Absolutely. And even despite Taillon's struggles, which I am genuinely concerned about, was good to see him go 5 2/3, at least despite having not the best stuff. Overall, you would have liked to win those 2 games. Of course, you would like to win those 2 games. But Assad going 8, Hayden Wisniewski going almost 4 innings.
Yeah.
The bullpen remains a point of potential concern from a fatigue point of view. To at least have that bullpen not completely taxed, they are gassed, but not to have them pushed even harder than they had to be was, I think, overall from the 4-game set, the most encouraging result of the series. They could have gone easily 3 innings from these starters, then you got to rely on using like Shane Green for 4 or 5 innings. You got to rely on using all these other pitchers in lower leverage that should be used in higher leverage. That to me was the biggest takeaway. The offense is struggling. My idea is the offense has enough depth to get beyond those struggles. Whereas for the bullpen, I'm still curious if they can withstand the every other day usage as we go on to like the 3rd week in September, the 4th week of September. So all that being said, with the Cubs splitting the series and not taxing the bullpen completely, that to me is the most encouraging trend.
Yeah, and you set up things, really nicely with Justin Steele going on Monday afternoon back at beautiful historic Wrigley Field, followed by Kyle Hendricks, who has been pitching really, really well.
Really good.
And then you finish that San Francisco series with Jordan Wicks, who has thrown 10 really good innings across 2 starts.
Oh, he's been awesome.
And we'll talk about that as well. So yeah, look, all things considered, like those 2 losses, very frustrating. And, that's one of those things where I was in the studio all day with Luke and Cody and Ryan for the doubleheader on Friday. And it's incredibly frustrating. And, there were a lot of folks in the chat, kind of feeling like I don't want to overreact, but I'm pissed off, that kind of thing. And I don't blame everybody, right? Like these are high stakes games and those were very frustrating losses. And I think the process that led to those losses is, something they're going to have to tighten up as we, get through September here. Like you're going to have to make better decisions. As you said, Brendan, like it's going to be a battle with this bullpen because these are not Hall of Fame relievers, right? These are guys who are just settling into these roles. Mark Leiter Jr. was starting games for you last year, right? Now he's being asked to pitch high leverage innings every day,
games basically. Against a playoff contender.
Albert Alzolay was a long reliever 4 months ago, right? Like now he's your closer being asked to go out there. Like the game on Friday night, I think Saturday night would have been the 4th game this week that bullpen was asked to close in a 1-run game where the offense scored, 2 or 3 runs or less, right? That is a tall ask for anybody, But these guys, Mark Leiter Jr. isn't Trevor Hoffman, Brendan. Throwing him out there in this situation like he can just pitch in a 1-0 game no matter what. It's not the best process, but this is where they are. They're going to have to piece it together. So I do want to note, as our YouTube chat is blowing up with the news, the Brewers did lose today to the Phillies. So the Cubs sit 3.5 back in the division. You'd like to, you win those couple games, you feel like that number could be a little lower, right? But at the end of the day, you're still within striking distance. You pick up a game today, which is nice to see after a frustrating couple games. So again, a ton to talk about. They did win 15-7 on Sunday, so I do want to start with the positive stuff. We may vent about some of this stuff. I promise you we'll talk about Alexander Canario not playing. We'll talk about some of these bullpen decisions, etc. But we're in a playoff race. They won today. We gotta start with what is getting them there. So, Brendan, I want to start with Javier Assad. I don't think there's any other place. Jordan Wicks is a really great story, really good on Friday. But, Luke, Ryan, Cody, and I, we did a post-game for that, so there is already, sort of a long discussion on Jordan Wicks. I want to talk about Javier Assad because what he has done for this team. We've talked about who are kind of the underrated players for this team, Jan Gomes and his contributions, things like that. Mike Tauchman, the way that he's played. Big game for him on Sunday after, kind of being in a pretty cold stretch. Is there the MVP of this team is Cody Bellinger. If he doesn't miss a month, Ronald Acuna is nuts, but he's in the conversation for the MVP of the league, right? But unheralded, the secret MVP of this team, Javier Assad, where is this rotation once Stroman goes down, Brendan, without Javier Assad?
He's putting up Stroman's numbers that we saw in April, in May, and early June before Stroman went down. And the way he went out there on Saturday for 8 innings, going 100-ish pitches in that weather. It looked as if it were like 120 degrees with like 99% humidity out there, sweating through his jersey. And doing so with pitch types across the board, 6 different pitch types, and his velocity was up 1 mile per hour on average, Corey. That's the most impressive part about Assad is he's been a guy that's been used in 3 inning spouts, 4 innings, 5 innings, and then he comes into a game in which the Cubs need to rest their bullpen, and he provides 8 shutout innings, throwing on average 94 miles per hour, showing a cutter 37% of the time, a sinker 34% of the time, a four-seam fastball 15% of the time, and then wiping out batters with that slider about 10% of the time. It was huge for this team, and it does make you wonder for the future what type of role he can play. Maybe it's not as your swingman, long relief, 3, 4, 5 inning role. Maybe his stuff does play out. Now, if you look at some of the projected models like Stuff Plus or Pitching Bot, he does not grade well across the board. Nevertheless, he has pitch types that could be outliers. The sinker could be an outlier given it has more ride than your average sinker. He has a unique pitch mix against 6 pitches that he can use against different handedness. That's why you saw him have success against Cincinnati and those heavy lefties. I mean, what can you say about Assad? Yeah, like from the pitching point of view, we always, maybe joke about the MVP and all that stuff, but like in reality, the context for this Cubs team is that there's potential for them to die on this pitching depth. If they don't have the pitching depth, it's hard for them to, in my mind, get through September. And I just wanted 5 innings from Assad every 5th day. If he gives up 3 runs, 4 runs, that's fine. That's all I wanted. I even tweeted out in the 6th inning, thinking he's done. Great effort by Assad. Goes out back for the 7th. I'm like, he's not going to go back out for the 8th. Gets through the 7th, goes back out in the 8th. I'm like, you got to be kidding me right now. This guy doing this in this leverage under these conditions, shutting out a high-powered offensive Reds team, beyond impressive, beyond my expectations, Corey.
Yeah, I mean, it was an incredible start, and in that ballpark too, Brendan. I mean, to pitch that way in that ballpark in Cincinnati, 8 innings, 7 hits, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts. He's got a 2.69 ERA on the season. You really cannot overstate the job that he has done. And again, we've talked about this before. He is a guy who has been asked and answered to do multiple things, right? When he came up for this team, he was not starting. He was in long relief, being thrown into random situations, right? And I think at the beginning, they didn't even really trust him in certain situations. So for him to get stretched back out and pitch like this in the middle of a playoff race is absolutely so huge.
If the playoffs were to start today, the Cubs are in the playoffs. He's probably your 3rd starter, which is insane to think about given the possibilities in this rotation.
If Stroman is not back, you're going Steele, Hendricks, and Assad. I don't know how you would make any other argument.
That's what I'm doing. No doubt about that.
Absolutely.
So it's a testament to his hard work. We always talk about the pitch lap and all this stuff, but like with Assad, he was coming up through the system throwing 87, 88. And then again, I just read that he threw 100 pitches in 100-degree weather, averaging 94 miles per hour in a playoff.
Pitches, but
whatever, dude. 94 miles per hour. That's absolutely absurd. That is a testament to his hard work, the Cubs' infrastructure, to make the most out of those types of players, those prospects. And that's what you need more to sustain success. That's really encouraging. Again, beyond impressive.
Well, and, for him to do it knowing that the offense wasn't there for him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the other thing that I think is so impressive. I'm obviously not a professional pitcher, but I can't imagine how difficult it must be to go out there and know you kind of have to be perfect on a given day. Like the offense just isn't there, and you can't make a single mistake. Now, the question I do have for you, because it's come up in the chat a little bit, do you think Ross should have sent him out there for the 9th? 98 pitches. This is a guy who, you'd really be pressing it with him. Like, this is a guy who wasn't even starting all year. So asking him to throw 115, let's say, pitches, that is really putting a lot on Assad's arm. But it's an easy thing for people to ask when the game is immediately thrown in the garbage by the bullpen. What do you think about that?
I don't have a confident thought on that. Again, 100 pitches. He's never done that his entire career. He was a long leverage guy in, April and May.
Yeah.
I would have been skeptical that he could have gone through the ninth inning, but he was looking good. I think in reality, it points to the Cubs needing to score more runs, and the Cubs need more pitching depth. Like, to put Assad in that situation in ninth inning, or even think about it, right, that's a huge ask. So Ross not going back to Assad, I'm not going to criticize Ross for it. And we can get into some of the nitpicky type situations and the decisions or lack thereof, but ultimately these types of roster crunches and the bullpen crunch, it's going to be difficult for any manager to maneuver through with 100% accuracy. Like, they just need the offense to show up and make these decisions, obvious decisions, like we saw today, having Keegan Thompson close out the game, even though he was not the best, and protecting that bullpen. This team can't go every other day relying on the Merriweathers and the Alzolais. And if you look at August, the amount of innings these guys have pitched, looking at Merriweather, Alzolai, Leiter, Merriweather, 15 innings. Alzolai, 14 2/3 of an inning. Mark Leiter, almost 14 innings. Even Jose Cuas, recently acquired Jose Cuas, almost 13 innings. It's not sustainable. That's just not a sustainable formula for success, relying on those guys who's never done it in their entire careers.
Right. That's kind of what I meant. I don't know why Trevor Hoffman is the person that comes to mind for me. It's really
the
weird.
Change up in the splitter.
I think
That's
I
why.
was thinking about Hell's Bells the other day, so it just something
you
about
brought it.
Trevor
I know you brought up Trevor Hoffman up multiple times.
Who knows, right? The reason I say that, right, is because when you have a closer with that pedigree that has that type of stuff, like in their prime, you can ask them to do crazy stuff. You can throw
that's
them out
why
there.
they're closers for a reason.
Exactly,
Hall of Fame closers
right?
for a reason.
The issue, and this isn't a slight at Alzolai or Leiter or Merriweather. These guys have been phenomenal, but they're not at that level yet. Asking them to come in and win a game earlier in the Milwaukee series, 2-1, 1-0. Then in Cincinnati, 1-0, 2-1. That is a lot for these guys, and you're I think Niren, our friend of the show, Niren said it in the YouTube chat earlier. Playoff races are about surviving attrition, and that is very true, and that is going to be the case for this team in September. They are going to have to figure out a way. You have a lot of guys who are putting more innings on their arm than they have ever before.
I'm concerned about it.
Yeah, certainly at the MLB level, right? These are high leverage, high stress, big-time games that a lot of these guys have not pitched in before, and you're racking up those innings. So I think, it's easy for people on Saturday, right, to be mad at Mark Leiter Jr. for blowing that game. He shouldn't be in that situation. He's been great for you. He did not have the feel on his splitter 5 days ago, pitching against Milwaukee. You could see it. I could see it sitting in the stands. I saw everybody talking about it on Twitter. Everybody notices this. He's gassed. He's being used too much. So for him to be that guy, I didn't have a problem with, sort of giving Alzolai a day off, blew the save the night before, let him settle down, like whatever, don't press it, right? Fine. And again, I'm not saying that Daniel Palencia comes in or Shane Green comes in and gets those outs to preserve that 1-0 win. But then after the game, you have David Ross saying, Leiter's gas. We've used him a lot. We know, David. We can see that. Not sure why you put him in the game then. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a difficult situation. We were talking about this before. It's like when Alzolai goes into the game, it appears as if there's some type of barrier in place where Alzolai tells Ross, I'm good to go, before the game starts. There's some type of expectation that he's just, healthy's not the right word, but in somewhat full capacity to pitch that game. When Leiter came into that game, he threw one splitter. And I'm like, oh my God. He just doesn't have it. You can tell from the first pitch. And so I'm wondering if you want to criticize, Ross and these decisions, if there's a greater barrier in place where you can at least make those decisions and understand the potential for someone to go in and maybe they're pitching through fatigue or they're fully healthy, that's to me where I hope they can improve on that. I hope, and I'm sure they have great communication because they've been so successful in the bullpen this year, but that can't happen. Like,
Right.
there needs to be something in place where before Leiter takes that mound, you have an idea if he's going to have his stuff or not. Like, it can't just be, eighth inning, let's pump him up. Hopefully he has it. Like, to me, there has to be something
Well,
else
and again,
in
like,
place.
he just doesn't have the pedigree where it's like,
Yeah.
he's gassed. You used him all week. Sure, get him back out there in a 1-0 game. Like, no, man, like that it shouldn't be like that. And again, there's no guarantee Julian Merriweather comes in and does it. But, you brought – I saw Vanilla Chill mention in the chat, and this is something I was thinking. Like, you brought Shane Green up. You stretched him out and didn't use him all weekend, right? Which is just weird. And look, I'm not saying Shane Green comes in and blows the Reds away and they win the game 1-0. He has closed before, though. Like,
Yeah, but I'm not going to, nitpick on that.
no, but what I'm saying is after the game, Ross is admitting that Leiter's gassed. You knew it, right? It just feels like one of those things where you're just putting guys in no-win situations, right? You got to try some other stuff, and if it doesn't work, sure, but going to the well over and over and over again on these same guys, it just isn't, it wasn't the best exercise. I didn't think. Again, does Ross have perfect options in this bullpen? I don't think so, but it just felt like, you need a little bit of a better feel, like you were saying, for some of these guys, because they are not guys you just blindly throw out there and their stuff is going to get them 3 outs no matter what. You have to be a little better than that, I think.
Yeah,
but
and
I do want to, before you go there, I do want to reiterate, right? When you are playing, that would have been their 4th game Saturday this week, where you are trying to protect a 1-run lead where you have scored less than 3 runs or less. If you want to get mad at the bullpen for blowing games like that, you can be my guest. But the offense needs to score.
Yeah, of course.
We saw it on Sunday, but the Reds have some good pitchers in this staff. Abbott has had some really good games, but overall, this Reds pitching staff is not a very good one. You had a guy making his MLB debut. You had Richardson on Friday, who looked awful in that first inning, right? He walked the bases loaded and then struck out the side. And you just didn't do good enough work against them. That is the story of those 2 losses for me. You can look at Ross. You can nitpick those things. I didn't like how that played out, right? But, man, at the end of the day, you have to score more runs than that. You cannot routinely ask your bullpen or your pitching staff to win a 1-0 or a 2-1 game. So the explosion on Sunday desperately needed, and I hope that sets them up for a big week here, starting with San Francisco. Get Dansby out of that slump. Get Candy out of that slump. Tauchman with a really nice game on Sunday. 4 hits on Sunday for the summer of Mike Tauchman. Credit to Cody Delmendo. But you have to be better against, this was not...
For sure.
This was not Spencer Strider, right, out there pitching, or, Kershaw. This was the Reds pitching staff. You put your bullpen in a really difficult position, and that is the story for me. Second-guessing the decisions and the work of the bullpen comes after that. You need to not be playing 2-1 games in the Great American Ballpark every day.
For sure. It's, I was thinking about this before we came on. It's like, the offense needs to do better. Like, they're going to be the first guys to say that, like they didn't do enough. But this is going to happen throughout the course of the season. Like, the offense at times will not produce runs, right? It's just inevitable. It's going to happen. Where I kind of fall back on is like when we look at these 4-game this 4-game series, it's easy to dial in and be like, oh, you know what? They should have scored more runs. It's really not the bullpen's fault. But if you stretch out that point of view, it's kind of like points back to some of the depth issues from even the pitching side. Like, the offense did pick up the pitching earlier on about, 4 or 5 weeks ago, right? The offense was quite good.
Sure.
And there's really not much at this point where they can improve the offense, and it does appear quite deep with Candelario in the lineup, assuming he produces about league average offense. So I'm not going back and criticizing that process per se. I kind of go back and I genuinely wonder what the process was at the trade deadline, anticipating some of the pitching depth issues. And I fall back on it. It's like, man, like I wish we had more depth. And that was a concern. And at the time, and still right now, it appears that the bullpen is fine. Like they're still pitching well generally in the long run. Even ALLCITY, I thought, even though he blew that save, he looked fine. His pitchers looked fine. He was commanding. He just got beat. Like some of those red hitters are good hitters. He just got beat. But as the month goes along here, if you want to, in my mind, criticize the process, I do think it was borderline, it's a strong word, borderline negligent to not boost the pitching depth. You go back to what Theo said and Yu Darvish during the injury many years ago. You have to at least anticipate the possibility that these guys won't last through September. And so if you're going to go out and improve Candelario and the offense with Candelario, it's like, how did you not make more moves from the pitching side of things? Yeah. So I can't shake that. Maybe it's too unfair. And of course we're dumb fans to say that, but like,
You're
it
a
seems
dumb
pretty.
fan. I'm not a dumb fan.
You used to work in the front office.
I'm the dumbest fan.
Ooh, well, I mean, sometimes you're dumb, not all the time, Corey.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm trying to say? It's like, you can dial in on the offense, but they should be okay. They have enough depth there. I'm worried about the depth for the pitching,
Yeah. Look, again, this is the thing, right? It's these are the games you wanted them to be playing. And sometimes it's going to be frustrating. You always used to say, Brendan, baseball is really stupid.
I
right?
still say that.
Like,
it's really the dumbest sport of all of them.
It's a silly game in a lot of ways.
It is.
And we know this team isn't perfect, right? So this is the stuff that this team is going to have to battle through. They're going to continue playing close games. They're going to have to figure out a way to get through it with this pitching staff. And you've seen it. Jordan Wicks has stepped up in these two starts. Javier Assad, has stepped up beyond compare to do the job that he has. You're going to continue needing it from other guys, and you're going to need guys to step up in the bullpen because Adbert Alzolay, Mark Leiter Jr., Julian Merriweather, you cannot just ask them to go preserve games every single day. They don't have that pedigree, and in some cases, you're going to burn them out. Like, that's the thing. Like, you're getting to that point. So, but I just say all that because we knew this, I think, coming in, right? We knew that this was how this team was constructed. They're not the Braves right now. We hope that they are maybe next year, right? Or, building toward that, right? But we know that this roster was not perfect. It's not a juggernaut. They're going to have to scratch and claw to win some games. And with that is going to come some really exciting wins and some really frustrating losses.
Yeah.
And, I'm not excusing things, but that is just the brand of baseball I think we should have expected from this team. And now you've added the playoff leverage to it. Like, this is what it's going to be for the next month. Like, if you're wanting them to blow teams out every day, like, good luck with that. Like, you should get,
I kind of want that to happen. Is it too much to ask?
So, all right, we should hit our first ad break here.
Okay.
We're a little over here, but again, do you want to talk about Canario? Do you want to talk about everything? Yeah, there's a lot going in the chat. David Ross, plenty. Taillon.
Sure.
Jordan Wicks, etc. So, and, some of the offensive guys, like nice day for some of these guys on Sunday, but it has been slump city for some of these guys. Dansby Swanson in a bit of a slump, nicer game on Sunday. Candy coming into the weekend in a slump, but, hit a couple homers. Mike Tauchman, 4 hits on Sunday, but he has been slumping. Morel's been slumping. So we will talk about all of that. If I could fix them, I would tell you why, but we will talk about what's going on with them after we hit our first ad break here.
Yeah, and before I do this ad break here, there won't be a time to just bring it up, just putting it out there. Nico's defense this weekend, even Dansby's defense, just a middle infield defense alone. Like, Nico's defense in that third game of the series kept him in it the entire time. Even Nico's defense today, making those back end plays, kept him in. Even Dansby almost saved that game yesterday,
Huge
man.
Defense from
yeah, so
Absolutely.
There's not going to be a place to talk about this episode, but just keep dialing in, hammering down that point. This middle infield defense, spectacular. Bring up PCA in center field, spectacular. Put Cody Bellinger at first base. One of the best defenses in Major League Baseball. Okay, so let's do our first ad break here, and we'll get back into it. College football fans, welcome back It's been your week one. If you want to bet on these games, DraftKings at Casino Queen Sportsbook is hooking you up for a can't miss offer to start the season strong. This week, new customers can bet just $5 on college football, score $200 in bonus bets instantly. Anything can happen in college football. Your team could go from unranked to dynasty mode in just a couple of years. Change does come fast. The only thing that's a lock is the great offers from DraftKings at Casino Queens Sportsbook. Life's more fun when you're in on the action. Download the DraftKings at Casino Queens Sportsbook app now. Use code CHGO. New customers can score $200 in bonus bets instantly when they bet just $5 on college football. Only at DraftKings at Casino Queen Sportsbook. With code CHGO, the crown is yours. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, crisis counseling and referral services can be assessed by calling 1-800-GAMBLER, 1-800-426-2537. You must be 21 or over in Illinois only. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/football terms. Another break here from our wonderful sponsor, Ray Auto. Are you in the market for a new or used vehicle? If you are, then we have some great news for you because Ray Chevy in Fox Lake has just joined the CHGO team. Get your ducks in a row at Ray Chevy and find new roads because it's the grand reopening of Ray CDJR in Fox Lake. Flock in September 9th, upcoming this week, and celebrate our Get Ducked event with free prizes and your chance to win $1,000. Plus, during Jeep Adventure Days, get employee pricing to all new 2023 Jeep Gladiator models. The grand reopening of Ray CDJR in Fox Lake is only on September 9th, but our savings are all month long, Corey.
Absolutely, Brennan. I know Luke is in the market for a new car. He's going to shop at Ray. Saw a good stat just come across the Twitter timeline here from our friends at Bleacher Nation. In the last 2 months, the Cubs have lost 2 series total. 2. So,
that's pretty good.
You don't. I think a lot of people feel meh about the split this weekend. But look, that's what you got to do. You got to put your head down and win series, and they've done that. So you got to continue to take care of business here with a team like San Francisco coming in, competing in that wild card race. But absolutely, this team has done a really good job of just winning series, taking care of business. So where do you want to go next, Brendan? You want to talk a little bit about Jordan Wicks?
Yeah, let's talk about Jordan Wicks, tie it into the Taillon conversation, and then we'll move over to the offense.
Right.
I think the offense is a little bit too long.
If you're watching us live on the YouTube chat, of course, if you're listening later, wherever you get your podcast or watching later, we appreciate that too. But if you're live on the YouTube chat, I know you've been waiting for it, clamoring to hear more about Jameson Taillon. So
drum roll, please.
Let's get into it. The good, the bad. Jordan Wicks. Look, the one thing I'll say about Jordan Wicks is, it's always one of those things you get excited to see prospects. You get excited to see guys come up and contribute, especially in this situation. It's only 2 starts, 10 innings total. But, man, it is really, really exciting to see him come in and succeed the way that he has and pitch his game, right? Use the pitches that got him, through college and to this level and succeed at the major league level. And just like Assad, they are not overwhelmed by the moment, Brendan. They are coming into a really difficult position here where you've got pitchers that are injured, pitchers that are gassed, pitchers that have not performed, and you have these guys coming up as rookies and acting like it's no big deal, man. A really good start for Jordan Wicks on Friday.
Yeah, if you look at that changeup too, that changeup is just unbelievable. And he has a unique release point to pair with that changeup. But what kind of caught my attention is the amount of movement it generates just from seam shifted wake. So if you just look at the observed movement versus the spin based movement, and you plot that in clock form, noon, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 3 o'clock, the amount of deviation is about 1 hour from spin-based movement to observed movement. And then you look at, okay, what other pitchers have similar deviation with their changeups? And the answer to that is, well, 75% of pitchers have less of that deviation. So you can kind of say that Jordan Wicks is one of the pitchers in the league that is able to capitalize on generating more movement using seam shifted wake than most pitchers in the league. And that should give you confidence and at least kind of pair the quantification with the scouting reports we've heard for many years about his changeup. And that might be one reason why he's successful. And then he started throwing the most encouraging part about Wicks is that he started throwing more cutters last start. And he actually relied on that cutter about once every 4 to 5 pitches. I'm like, oh my God. We've heard about his four seam, his changeup. We needed a horizontal breaker to pair with that pitch. And he's going out there and throwing cutters like once every 4 to 5 pitches in the Cincinnati Reds in a playoff spot. This guy is unique. Like, he has that attitude, that mindset, but also he's showing the pitch types and maybe developing the horizontal breaker at a rate that can lock him in as a significant contributor for 2024. And at least right now, in my mind, every 5th day, innings limit be damned, he's my guy out there. Like, he's, to me, if he continues to show this type of stuff, like, he's every 5th day until the season ends. I don't think it's possible right now, given some of the potential innings limits. We'll learn more about that. But man, he's just unbelievable, Corey.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, you can't say enough about it. And like I said, in that ballpark too, I mean, for those two guys to pitch that well and hold the Reds down in a ballpark that is notorious for being one of the best hitters parks in the league. Yeah. Really good. I also, the one thing too, just on Assad, credit to Javier Assad, a couple pickoffs in that game. Yeah. I tweeted this, but I think somebody's been spending some time with Kyle Hendricks.
Definitely. Right? Well, I was going to say John Lester, but
All right.
Yeah, those two pickups. I don't know, lefty version, but yeah. Kyle Hendricks probably did teach him that.
Kyle Hendricks is working with Jordan Wicks on the changeup and Javier Assad on the pickoffs. Very nice.
There you go.
Let's talk about Taillon. Look, you have, I think, pointed everybody. If you've listened to our shows or watched our shows, Brendan has the graphs and the
I do.
data to kind of show all of this. His fastball it's running too much, right? And I feel for Taillon in the sense that, that is a pitch that he's obviously been successful at the big league level, and it's abandoned him, right? It is gone from something that he could rely on to something that is now leaking over the plate and getting barreled like crazy, right? Yeah. So it's a 4-year deal, long term. You try to fix it in the offseason, and I think it should be something that you can fix, right, in the offseason going forward, right? Yeah. The issue, though, for right now is this is getting borderline, and I say borderline, like unstartable. Yeah. And the problem here is only, he limited it to 4 runs, got through 5 innings on Sunday. Still a ton of hard contact, a couple fly balls. I think Steer hit one that was really nearly a 4th home run on the game for Taillon. Nico with some nice plays to kind of bail him out. Amaya and Swanson combining to tag Bader out to get him out of that 1 inning. It could have been worse, right? And the problem remains, Brendan, that he is just throwing the ball over the middle of the plate. I mean, it is like batting practice. If you go and look at some of those charts where the homers are getting hit, these are just awful pitches, Brendan. Yeah. And the frustrating thing on Sunday was Cubs offense has struggled, right? They come out, Cody Bellinger, that piece of hitting in the 1st inning from Cody Bellinger.
Spectacular.
To reach down and line that one to center field. Unbelievable the way that he looks at the plate. You take the lead, blown immediately. You come back and take another lead, blown immediately. The offense ended up coming through and scoring enough runs to win this game. But that is really defeating if you're an offense, right? Yeah. You come out, you've been struggling, you're pressing. You have a lot of guys in this lineup probably pressing a little bit, right? Like, you take the lead, gone. Take another lead. Okay, we came back for you, J-Mo. We got you. No, gone. Yeah. Really tough to keep digging out of those holes. The Cubs don't have a ton of options, Brendan, right?
I can see you take that like sigh. I can kind of see where your brain is going.
You can try Shane Green. You could try a bullpen game. You could try Drew Smiley for a couple innings. Difficult. Hayden Wisniewski comes in. Maybe that's better, right? Yeah. I I don't know. It's a tough spot. So I hesitate to say in the moment on Twitter watching this, I
You're
tweeted,
like, get him out of the
off
rotation.
the mound and don't put him back on it, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I feel that way. Maybe that's too aggressive. They don't have great options. But, Brendan, the one thing, you are in a playoff race. Every single game is so valuable. Trying to claw your way back in the division and fend off all these teams in the wild card race or catch the Phillies for the wild card one. You cannot, however they handle it, you cannot have Jameson Taillon throwing fastballs over the middle of the plate, start after start after start. It just cannot continue to happen. And if he can't dial it in, which at this point I don't think that he can until they're able to do the work in the offseason, I think you'd be better off trying a bullpen game or being more limited in how you're using him. They got 5 innings out of him today, but boy, did that feel risky, Brendan. Like, it felt like you were playing with fire. Maybe you try for a couple innings and see if the stuff plays up a little bit. I don't know, but the batting practice has got to stop.
It's difficult. I think in general, if the Cubs didn't have pitching death problems, my idea would be get him out of the rotation. And that to me is not even being hyperbolic. The fastball is a legitimate concern, and these are not my words. Like, the cool thing about Taillon is that he's very open. He's a very smart dude. Like, I have confidence he's going to fix this eventually. It's just this season, he himself said it's likely an off-season plan. So I think he's going to address it, but I don't think it can be done this season. So what is he actually needing to address? Again, everything I'm going to talk about is from his words, not mine. This is not me, breaking anything down. But he has expressed that he wants his four-seam fastball, which is his dominant pitch type. Everything works off his four-seam. It's his base. It's the concrete of his pitching repertoire. He wants that pitch to be straighter. So if you're looking at this graph here on the YouTube channel, you can see that this blue line is just going straight downhill. And this happened around August on the bottom of this graph. This means that slope downhill is showing that his pitches, his four-seam fastballs are moving on average now 2, 3, 4 inches more arm side than what they were even in middle of July. And when he said his fastball is pretty good, he's feeling his good fastball, there's optimism there. And so it has escaped him recently. Like, his struggles earlier on in June were in part contributed by his four seam, but those problems are actually amplified. They're worse now than what they were in June and July. I'm going to go get a baseball here. I know it's not good audio to get off here, but if you listen to what he's saying, I can kind of generally show, I think, in my mind what it looks like. So once I'm going to get a baseball, and this is not good audio.
We've ever had
I know. We're going to do it.
We're going to do it.
One second.
Brendan. Again, like in layman's terms, the fastball, it's just moving too much. It's running too much.
Okay, I'm back. I can't hear you, but I'm back. Okay.
No, I was just saying in layman's terms, the fastball is moving too much.
The fastball is moving too much. It's just moving too much arm side. Right. So what I'm going to show is just a generality, because I'm not a pitching grip guy or whatever. I'm not a pitching coach at all.
This is exciting.
Is it exciting? Okay, well, look at this first off. You see this? Look at that. Oh. I know. What does that say, Corey? Can you read that for me?
Chicago Cubs won the World Series.
World Series, correct, yes.
Very nice.
Yeah, so he was talking to Sahar Sharma at The Athletic about what the actual issue is with his four-seam fastball and why is it moving more arm side. And his four-seam fastball used to be pretty straight. So it used to spin kind of like this at what's known as 1245, the time 1245. And what he is saying is somewhere in his release, his grip, his four-seam grip is shifting a little bit. Kind of again, this is all generalities. I don't know if this is exactly what's going on, but it kind of shifts a little bit in his release. Okay. And what's happening is his ball, his pitch, rather than spinning like this, is slightly tilted like this. And what this is doing is that pitch then is going to be moving more arm side on average, again, about 3 to 4 inches. So something is happening from the point where he's like this, where his grip is changing. These are his words, where it's causing that spin axis to change by 15 minutes. That's it. And that's the margin of being average to below average. So that's what he needs to fix. It seems like a pretty difficult ask. He doesn't seem confident he can do it, but that's a problem right now.
Yeah.
It's difficult.
And look, appreciate that comment live on YouTube here from Michael Evans, finally catching the Sunday show live. Love these segments. Look, they don't call him the pitch doctor for nothing. In all the years that Brendan and I have been podcasting together, I have never seen him do a live demonstration with the baseball.
I think it was a good one.
I'm going to meme that. But the issue for Taillon is that, you have to remember, you throw, maybe a bullpen between starts, you have your throwing program. Addressing this stuff in August or September is really, really difficult to change your mechanics as a pitcher. And that's why, you've given credit to certain guys, ALLCITY being one of them over the years, when these guys have implemented new pitches in season. That is
even Keegan Thompson last year.
Incredibly difficult for pitchers to do in season, because you are talking about whole-scale mechanics change to get that. It's not as simple as just changing the grip in the middle of September and going out and trying to get, these hitters on the Reds out. It's not that simple. So I know a lot of people are very frustrated, and we've seen this before, right? We have seen plenty of pitchers. We talk about them all the time. Different results through their contracts. John Lester struggled in April of 2015. He ended up having a great season in 2015 and is one of the best, if not the best, free agent signing in Chicago Cubs history, right? Yu Darvish struggled early in his Cubs career, ended up being incredible by the end of his tenure, right? Tyler Chatwood struggled in the beginning, never really figured it out. Marcus Stroman struggled in the beginning, figured it out. So it's one of those things where long-term, this seems like a problem that they can fix. Is it easy? I don't know. But Taillon should not be this bad, right? There is something you can identify, you know what it is, and you should be able to fix it. Long-term, different discussion than short-term. They have to find a way to win games. And if he cannot keep his pitches away from the middle of the plate and getting barreled like this, you have got to pivot, or you have got to get him out of the game earlier, whatever it is. I know people in the chat, and I'd like your thoughts too as well. Hayden Wesneski looked like what we saw last year from him in this series in Cincinnati. He was touching 99 miles an hour, Hayden Wesneski.
Yeah.
So you have a situation where, again, there isn't a perfect answer. Drew Smyly obviously has struggled as a starter, looks a lot better as a reliever. Do you try to piece these games together? Do you see what Shane Green can do? Do you try to put together a four-man group that is this fifth starter and see if Taillon plays up out of the bullpen? I don't know. That's aggressive, and I don't expect them to do it, right?
Yeah.
But you cannot have him spotting the other team 4 or 5 runs on these easy home runs, right? Every time he goes out there, you cannot have it. This offense isn't consistent enough to be able to weather that storm, and these games are too valuable. So there's not a perfect answer, but this is obviously, everybody knows this, right? Everybody watching knows this, that you have to be careful about this. He's just not pitching well enough to throw him every 5th day and be like, yeah, okay, I don't know exactly what they should do, but it's not good enough. And these games are too precious, Brendan, to just keep kind of throwing your hands up.
I mean, I'm kind of with you. It's, again, if the depth was not on their minds, like I would remove him from the rotation right now. The main reason for this, I separate out like Taillon, the person himself. I have confidence he's going to fix this, and I think once he does fix this, he's going to be like a well above the average pitcher. But in the current moment, the way that his fastball looks, if you just plug in his peripherals into a calculator, it strongly suggests it's going to get hit hard. Like the pitch is grading on like a 40 out of 80 on the 80 scale. Like it's likely going to get hit hard. And so in my mind, that actually exposes the bullpen to be used more than Ross would like. So there's, for me, a way of thinking about this where, yes, the bullpen is taxed, the rotation needs to step up, but like, man, if Taillon's going out every 5th day and has this fastball that's going to get eaten up, like that might exasperate some of the bullpen issues they have. Then again, he is a grizzly veteran, and like even today in the last start, like his stuff is not looking good, but he's still able to provide 5-6 innings. Granted, in doing so, he's been fortunate the offense have stepped up and they've won these games. So it's really difficult. I think in a perfect world, I just would have him in the bullpen, and I would use him against right-handed batters, kind of the same way I'm thinking about Hayden Wisniewski, but I don't have a solution for it. It's unfortunate. I don't know. You can go with a bullpen day every fifth day if you want, but I don't think that's the answer either. It's just like almost a lose-lose situation,
Yeah. So we'll see. And
We'll
again,
see.
some people talking about Marcus Stroman. He's out in Arizona. He's trying, but if you listen to Jed Hoyer, I think in the middle of the doubleheader, they genuinely don't know.
Yeah.
It's a weird injury.
Well, no one's had that before.
He's going to try. I think he's working and throwing to get back out there, but he was totally non-committed. He literally said, I think on Marquee, I don't know. We don't know if he's going to be able to get back. So you can't rely on that for sure.
Yeah.
Want to hit our second ad break here.
Yeah. Then we'll quickly touch on the offense.
I promise we will talk about Alexander Canario when we return from this ad break.
All right. Buying tickets to your favorite events should not be stressful. Game Time is a fast and easy way to buy tickets to reduce that stress for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for all the fun that you will have. Game Time is the place for last-minute ticket deals. Forget planning months in advance. Tickets are also sent directly to your phone, so you never have to dig through your email. Snag the tickets without stress with Game Time. Use our code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CHGO for $20 off. I may go to Arizona in 2 weeks to go watch these games. When the Cubs go out to Arizona, I will be using Game Time, Corey, to get those tickets. Last break here from our sponsor, Splash. CHGO has a weekly Pick X and NFL Survivor contest for everyone to participate for real money. How do you enter? Head to splashsports.com/CHGO and sign up. Deposit cash to get started, and it's just $10 to enter. CHGO has weekly NFL Pick X contest. First prize is $2,700. Second prize $1,800. Third prize $1,350. Even fourth place prize $900, and so on. We will be running contests all year long, so be sure to keep that link handy. If you want to run your own contest, tired of being the commissioner on leagues chasing people down with none of the reward, you can sign up to be a commissioner right through our link and earn money for the contest you're already running with friends and family. Again, head to splashsports.com/CHGO to join in. We'll have different contests coming out, so we are stoked to compete with and against you all. Be sure to click the link in the description below.
All right, Brendan, let's get to it.
Canario.
Reading our live chat. Barb, we do read the chat, but if we talked about everything the chat was talking about, we would be on 800 different topics every 30 seconds.
Also, we're kind of like podcast utility players. We're both like showing the comments and talking and trying to pay attention to your face, and I'm doing pitch scripts over here. So, I'm like Ben Zobrist of podcast right now, Barb.
Yeah. So, listen, on the Canario stuff, the first thing I think is it's one of those things where you never know what he's going to do, right? So it's an easy sort of like, would he have, no one's saying he would have come in on Friday night or Saturday and been the savior for this offense and hit 80 home runs and, oh, wow, the Cubs offense is fixed. Thank you, Canario, right? But it's one of those things where you brought him up, you have a doubleheader, you have a lot of these guys who are gassed on offense, could really use a day off. Some of these guys really struggling, right? Just really not warrant, playing every day, right? And he doesn't get in there. He doesn't even get a pinch hit opportunity in against a not great pitching staff in a hitter's ballpark. And, then reading some of the quotes, I think on Sunday morning, he said something, Ross said something about, Canario's on the bottom of the depth chart, not expecting him to start very much. And then on Sunday, there's the discussion from him and Jed of, it being valuable for him to be in this clubhouse, in this atmosphere, even if he's not going to play. I hate it, Brendan. I really hated this. And again, there's no guarantee he comes in and plays well. Maybe he comes in and strikes out 4 times, right? Nobody's arguing different than that. But it does feel similar to the conversation we had about like Morel and Mervis earlier in the year. Like, there's no guarantee they succeed, and Mervis didn't. But try something else, right? Like, you have guys that are struggling. You are desperately trying to score 1 or 2 runs in a few of these games. He doesn't see the field at all. I just don't understand. And now you have a guy that worked back from injury, is hot at the plate, and needs these reps, and he's just sitting there not seeing live pitching for 4 days now. I really hated this, and I hate their explanation for it. So, again, there's no guarantee he succeeds, but not even a single plate appearance in Cincinnati against this staff when you have 2 games where we're talking about the bullpen blowing saves because you could only score 1 or 2 runs. How does he not get a single plate appearance, Brendan?
Yeah. Well, in my recent memory and all these call-ups, it's like never happened before. Like usually in the Joe Madden days, and even like for Ross earlier on here, guy gets called up, he's in there day 1, and you kind of break that ice. You break the anxiety of, am I going to play? Am I not going to play? Am I going to come in the 8th here? Am I not going to come in the 8th here? And as a former star athlete myself, Corey, but like in all reality, having that expectation of like, yeah, I'm going to play right now, mentally, it takes away the anxiousness. It takes away the unpredictability of when he's going to get that first opportunity. So I dislike that. I dislike the answers you were alluding to with Ross bringing that up. And I want to understand the idea and the process. To me, I don't quite understand calling up a player of his caliber who needs development and not just in general not playing him. It's not good for his development. And I brought up, on social media, we have some comments here as well. There is value of inserting someone like that into a clubhouse and just getting familiarized with the coaches and the environment and the day-to-day scheduling. I think there's value to that. My idea is that it's not as valuable as playing every day and seeing pitches every single day. I think that outweighs that.
He missed time.
He did. He missed a lot of time. And, I don't think it's good for the player himself nor for the overall team who they may need a bat in 2-3 weeks. You never know what's going to happen.
Right.
And then the idea is, okay, well, you call him up. He's not going to play in these first 3, 4, or 5 games, but if you call someone up, you can't send it back down for 10 more days. So like, you're going to call him up, that's fine. But then you can kind of counter that idea and you think of like Miles Mastrobuoni, who was called up on August 22nd. If you need some type of reinforcement, you can just send back Mastrobuoni and call someone up, and you could have waited for Canario to come up at Wrigley. I guess a better way of saying that is if you wanted to call up Canario, you could have called someone up for this Red Series that provides more value and then option Mastrobuoni down once they come back to Wrigley and call up Canario. I don't understand the process of calling him up and putting a break on his development, even though it's 3 to 4 days. I don't like that process.
Well, and I see some folks in the chat, kind of like the one thing that, stood out. I see a comment from Carter Hawkins, which I still choose to believe is the real Carter Hawkins.
It's for sure him. Look at that. Look at that photo.
It's his picture.
It is
his name and his picture.
It's his picture, his name.
You were up 8 runs. Like, if you didn't want to play him in a close game, you didn't like the righties, I think, that started the first couple games of the series, okay, I guess. I still don't agree with it, but like up 8, he can't get 1 plate appearance just to kind of get the major league experience. Like you had, if you didn't want him playing him in close games, you didn't want to play him in a blowout, like you had every opportunity for whatever type of situation you wanted to insert him in. I think the bigger issue, and this kind of plays into the conversation that we were talking about. One, I do think, and this is something, again, our friend in the chat, Niran, always says, if Jed Hoyer wanted him in there, I think he would have played. I'm not particularly one to agree with the idea that Ross is going into business for himself and Jed Hoyer is up in his box going, why isn't David playing Alexander Canario? If they wanted him in there, or Jed strongly disagreed with the way he was being used, I think he would have gotten in there, is my opinion. Like, the idea that Ross is completely on a separate island than the front office, I really doubt. It could be, but I really doubt it. And then getting to this, and I see King James talking about it, like, it would be one thing if this offense was rolling, If this is the 2016 Cubs and they're putting up 8 runs a game, stuff like that, then sure, maybe I can get, okay, well, you brought the youngin up here, get him some clubhouse experience. Maybe the opportunity presents himself to pinch hit or something like that. But we're playing too well. Nobody's deserving of a seat. You had plenty of guys that could have taken a seat this weekend, Brendan. And like some of these guys had good games on Sunday, but coming into Sunday from August 15th to now, coming into Sunday, right? So not including Sunday, and we've told you what they did on Sunday. Christopher Morel entered Sunday with a 20 WRC plus since August 15th. Mike Tauchman, a 27 WRC plus since August 15th. Dansby Swanson, 35. Jamer Candelario, 58. Yan Gomes, who's a catcher, but 67, right?
Yeah.
And again, some of these guys had really nice games on Sunday. Just to make sure I point that out, Tauchman, 4 for 6 with 3 RBIs. Dansby Swanson, 2 for 5 with 2 RBIs. Jamer Candelario, 1 for 4 with an RBI, hit a home run. So again, they played well on Sunday, but you had plenty of guys at some point in this series, right, that definitely could have used a day on the bench. They have not been producing for weeks now, for some of them longer. Morel is in a really bad stretch here. But like, you couldn't have sat Morel for one day. He really hasn't warranted being in the lineup that often lately. And longer term, you need to get these guys going, right? So I understand that, right? Like, you're not just going to abandon Christopher Morel because he's been ice cold. You're not going to abandon some of these other guys. But the opportunity was there for somebody who has been ice cold for weeks to take a seat and let Alexander Canario hit 9th, right?
Yeah.
A couple ABs. If they bring in a tough righty reliever, fine, sit him back down. But it just is one thing. This offense wasn't rolling, man. This offense wasn't rolling. You have plenty of guys that have been struggling and maybe could have just used a day off, get your headspace in a different spot. Again, maybe it isn't that big of a deal because I do sort of, I don't want the idea to be like they would have won every game if Canario had played. Like,
I thought they would have.
Of course, who knows? But it's just one of those things where, like, reading the thing, like, now he's just sitting there for days at a time, not getting these reps, no opportunity. I just didn't love it. I didn't love the process.
I don't like the process. I don't think it's a healthy process, and like that's probably sharp criticism. And coming from you and I means absolutely nothing. Like whatever, but I don't also disagree with playing the guys currently on the roster. Like, I can understand if you want to give Morel an opportunity to get out of it, then he has to play more. Like, obviously, Morel has to play more. Like, these guys on the current roster that are not Canario, like, they're going to be the guys that propel the Cubs. Like, they have to get through this slump. So I understand that. What I fall back on is, okay, then, don't call up Canario then. Right? Like, I don't think it's personally healthy for a young guy coming back from injuries to be on the bench, like, am I going to play or not? Like, that's like not good. That's just like not mentally cool.
Now if I think you're facing Logan Webb coming up.
Have fun.
A good matchup, right?
Have fun.
That's a bad one to throw him into.
Yeah.
And then you look and you go, okay, now if he makes his debut, say he pinch hits on Monday afternoon, right? Like, he hasn't hit in 5 days.
Yeah.
So now you're bringing him in, like.
Yeah. Ultimately, I don't think it's, to be honest with you, I don't think it's that like big of a deal per se. Like, I think we're kind of like nitpicky a little bit, but just like overall, don't call him up now. Just wait 3 more days so he gets more playing time. That's all. I just want him to continue to play. That's all.
I just put it on the screen on our live YouTube chat from, again, the real Carter Hawkins.
The real Carter Hawkins,
They did really say this. This is paraphrasing from Carter Hawkins in our YouTube chat, but they did say that they feel being in this clubhouse and being a part of pennant race baseball, even if he's not playing, is good experience for Canario.
Yeah, it is. I don't disagree with that.
But
it doesn't. To me, it doesn't outweigh seeing pitching every single day.
I don't necessarily. No, I think I do disagree with that. Like, of course, it's good to be in a clubhouse and get this experience, but he needs to play baseball.
Yeah,
like,
that's my point.
He's not hurt. He's not a visitor to hang out and get a cool experience. Like, he needs to be playing.
I would love that experience.
Oh, cool! I'm in the clubhouse for a playoff race, but that I have nothing. Again, it's 4 games. We'll see how they handle this going forward. But like, I just didn't like that process, especially when you're struggling so much to score runs. I will ask you this. Dansby, 2 hits on Sunday, desperately needed it. But coming into this, obviously, it has been a struggle for him on offense, and you really need him to produce. Candy, the same way, and he hit a couple home runs this weekend, so hopefully that kind of gets him going. But any thoughts on?
Yeah, I have a few thoughts.
Swanson in particular, just any of these guys that have been slumping. Obviously, they're very different hitters, but Swanson in particular, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, with Dansby, I've been kind of closely looking into his plate discipline as the season has gone along, and like early on, there was a time where he was making more contact. In the last 2 years, he's making around 74% contact, whereas previous 2-year average was around 71%. And the higher contact paired with his better chase rate was interesting to me because it signaled he was doing things or approaching at bats differently than when he was with the Braves. So I thought that was interesting. Now, since the All-Star break, even since that White Sox series on the South Side, the power has come back. With that power has come more whiffs. He's making 68% contact since that stretch. Also has come hyper aggression, relatively speaking, where his chase rate went from about 22% upwards to 32% in that last 100 to 150 plate appearance sample. But the power has gone up as a result. Now, recently, within the last 50 to 75 plate appearances, the power is not there. The whiff rates are up. The chase rate's also up. It's just not a good stretch for him. Why that is, I'm not sure. I liked the early on approach. I was more willing to accept with Dansby less power for more contact and like more walks. I thought that was interesting. I was totally fine when he was going through that like kind of power shortage earlier on of him being this new type of player, because I thought that was more sustainable. I still believe for Dansby's profile, if he's only going to be making 70 to 71% contact, that type of power he has is not going to age that well. Like very few guys can age that well with those two types of traits. So I think for me, I would like Dansby to get back to that early season approach where he's making more contact, going to the opposite field more, seeing more pitches. And personally, I'm willing to accept fewer home runs as a result. And now it's easier to say, maybe it's not like an intentional approach change. It could just be like randomness, But if it were an intentional approach change, I would like to see Dansby take that back on. I would like to see the April and May form of Dansby with the less power come back.
Yeah, I mean, look, you brought in some of these guys. You paid Dansby a lot of money. You traded for Jamer. And again, nice day on Sunday for Dansby. A couple homers this weekend for Candy. They got to produce. You know what I mean? Everybody was on Ian Happ when he was in that cold stretch and hitting third, and obviously he had a huge weekend. He's had a really nice stretch, has Ian Happ. Seiya Suzuki, everybody was on him. He rebounded after being sat for a few games. He's been really, really good for this last while here. You need these guys to step up.
Yeah.
And, especially when they're in these cold stretches, I know Ross tries stuff out, but he moved Dansby up in the order this weekend, right?
Yeah.
It just isn't matching the eye test. So, but the main thing is, as we said, you're talking about a couple blown saves. The offense has got to step up, and it needs to be led by the leaders, right? The guys that are making the big bucks, the guys that are supposed to be hitting, need to be doing the job going forward.
But this is how the team is constructed. They're not, you said this earlier, but they're not a perfect team. So maybe our expectations are too high right now because they've been playing so well, but they have offensive shortcomings. They have pitching shortcomings. This just kind of might be who they are, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Better than a 40 WRC.
Well, that's not acceptable. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen for the next 2 weeks. If it does, we're in trouble. But that's likely not going to happen.
Thankfully, Cody Bellinger is just
Cody
out
Bellinger.
Of control. I mean, just incredible pieces of hitting all weekend. The way he hits with 2 strikes to pair along with the way that he slugs. It's just a joke.
It's
He's
artistic.
so good. Priority number 1 in the offseason. Cody Bellinger has got to be a centerpiece of this next
Yeah.
great Cubs team. One more ad break for you before we sign off here. Want to thank our wonderful sponsor. You guys know it. It is the Goose Island Beer Company. CHGO is supported by Goose Island, Chicago's beer since 1988. They have that incredible beer roster, the 312 Wheat Ale, which is my favorite, the Full Pocket Pilsner, which is the everyday beer, what the Brewers are drinking, the Goose Island Brewers, not the Milwaukee Brewers.
No.
Nobody cares what the
No
Milwaukee
one
Brewers
cares about that,
are
Tim.
drinking. You've got the Beer Hug family, and of course, now we are heading into fall, the delicious Oktoberfest. Grab an ultra-fresh brewery-exclusive beer at the Goose Island Original Taproom Brewhouse on Clybourne Avenue in Lincoln Park, or from their taproom on Fulton Street in Westtown. I have told you guys before, they have delicious smash burgers, fried pickles, pairs perfectly with that 312 Wheat Ale. Again, that's my favorite, but the whole Goose Island beer roster is absolutely incredible. It has been Chicago's beer since 1988 and a wonderful sponsor of everything going on at CHGO. Last thing we have for you is a reminder to check out Becoming a Diehard with CHGO. We are headed into tailgate season, first tailgate of the year. Bears, Packers. We will have a tailgate for you, best in the city. If you sign up to be a CHGO Diehard, you get a discount on all those events like the tailgates. You get a free shirt when you become a member. You get access to the members-only Discord. You get extra premium written content for members at allchgo.com and more events. But the tailgates are great. I went to a few of them last fall before the Bears game. Great food, drinks, prizes, all sorts of stuff, and you get a discount if you become a diehard member. So check that out at allchgo.com. All right, before we sign off here really quickly, just setting the table for you. Big stretch here still continues for the Cubs, a full week. And that is why, I think Sunday, pretty important, Brendan, to give some of those relievers a day off here. That eighth inning was really important for the Chicago Cubs to put up that crooked number because it let some of these higher leverage relievers have a day off. Coming up, 3 with San Francisco at beautiful historic Wrigley Field. On the Labor Day, on Monday, a 1:20 start, then a night game on Tuesday, and then another 1:20 on Wednesday. And then the Cubs welcome in the Diamondbacks for 4 games, a night game on Thursday, and then 3 straight 1:20 games there. So a full week. And to set the table for you here, again, Brendan and I recording this live on YouTube. It is 3:52 Central Time, so games still going on. If you are live in that YouTube chat, please hit the thumbs up on your way out. Hit that like button for us. It helps everybody at CHGO if you do so. We appreciate that very much. But setting the table for you standings-wise, the Cubs now sit 3.5 games behind the Milwaukee Brewers. Brewers are 76-60. Cubs are 73-64. In the wild card race, the Cubs currently hold the number 2 slot in this wild card race. They are 73-64. The third wild card spot is a tie between, Brendan, the 2 teams coming to Wrigley Field this week, the Arizona Diamondbacks and the San Francisco Giants. The Giants and Diamondbacks right now, they are both playing live, so this will change if you're listening to this later. 70-66 as they play their games here on Sunday. Miami, 70-67, is a half game behind them. Philly has that number 1 spot at 75-61, so the Cubs just 2.5 games out of that first wild card spot. A reminder, if you get one of those wild card spots, you have the potential to play at home, so not a huge difference between that and winning the division, but we want to win the division. I do not like the Milwaukee Brewers, and I don't want them to win the division again. So, and yes, Augie's Day live on our YouTube chat says both the Giants and DBacks are down 3 runs here as we record this on Sunday, so hopefully they drop those games. Big stretch coming up, Brendan. Again, frustrating couple of losses in the middle of this series. Really nice response from this offense late in this game on Sunday to have kind of a blowout win. Big week coming up. You don't have any off days, so you're going to have to grind this stuff out. Hopefully we get a big pitching performance out of Justin Steele and Kyle Hendricks to start this week off. That would really set the tone for a nice week. But again, you're playing the teams you're in the race with, so you just have to put your head down and take care of business.
Win games. That's it.
Win games. That's it.
Protect the bullpen and win games. Do both.
Yeah. And
play
again,
Canario.
They did it on Sunday. Let's try to score some runs, guys.
That would be nice.
Let's give this pitching staff a little bit of a breather here.
People
score
say,
some runs.
People say protect the pitching staff, protect us. I can't do this. I can't do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that is all we have for you. As always, keep it tuned to the CHGO Sports and CHGO Cubs social channels. They will have the schedule for you for the coming week. Luke, Cody, and Ryan will have all your coverage. Ryan and Jared Willis, great written articles at allchgo.com. Cody and Luke will be in the studio for you with pre- and post-game throughout the week. We appreciate your support of the CHGO Cubs podcast and everything going on at CHGO. If you have the long weekend off, you're off on Monday, enjoy your off day. If you don't, hope you have a good day as well. We will be back with you next Sunday to talk about hopefully a successful week here against the Giants and Diamondbacks. Brendan and I appreciate your support. We will talk to you again soon, and as always, go Cubs.